Okay, we're here again with the legend, Mr. Terry Vaughn. And today we have Ali Youssef here also with us here in our boardroom. So before we begin, I just wanted to, as always, thank you guys for being here. Today, prior to the beginning of this session, we were looking at an offer to lease that was already done, just to kind of explain what it is, and then we're going to try to reflect that into um, a trap MLS commercial retail that we can then kind of pass information. So let me rephrase that. So what we found was a standard agreement to lease um, that will show you those details, and then we'll try to apply those details into an MLS listing that is available today, and hopefully that will give everybody a good scoop of the details. So let me just quickly share my screen then first. And again, this is a document. It's a little old, but it proves a point that we mentioned earlier. Okay, and this was actually a property of Jim Storino, or broker of record, and this is old school. Okay, this is from 2006, but yet it kind of reflects that brochure that we were talking about in the previous session, right? So here I found a little earlier, and Jim provided us with some content, right? So this is an old brochure per se, right? There's no color or anything, but here are the details of that property, right? So we had the location, the size, frontage and depth, zoning, okay, and commercial, automotive, adjacent to Canadian Tire, full services at the lot line, which lease, and then he put here the 5-year term with 20-year term available, and he put the occupancy, and then again his contact information for other brokers or potential tenants. Here then specify the special commercial C6 zone, and again, zoning may have changed already from 2006, but he actually listed the permitted uses, which I think is really great. If if you're working with a tenant, right, you want to obtain this information and make sure that whatever intended use you will have, that it would actually be allowed, right? And then he has some zone provisions as well, and then some exceptions to that, right? So we're not going to get into detail, but again, this is a old listing from 2006, right, where he actually it was on the MLS, and he had the description again by a broker record. So we're not getting into detail too much on that, just giving you what the idea of what a brochure should contain. And then of course here he had the diagram or the survey, right, specifying the the front and depth of that property. So that was that. Now let me just also then share with you the other document that I'm going to show you today. Let me just 1 second. Okay. Now I'm going to share you this document. So this is and again, this is a deal that Jim did in 2006. Again, I deleted the franchise to the most. I mean, hopefully you won't be able to see who that was. And again, but we're just trying to give you an idea of what we're talking about. So this is an offer to lease from the franchisee to Jim's company in 2006, right? So here is what those guys actually sent, right? So somebody prepared an offer to lease that was sent to Jim Storino, and this is what they put. First, they put a summary sheet with the area lease, which in this case was 1,400 square feet, and then here they put the base rent, which was at the time $20 for year 1 to 5 and $23 for years 6 to 10. The CAM and taxes CAM is for plazas, correct, Terry?
That's correct, sir.
And taxes was $5 estimated at a time. You see, I still remember from my commercial lessons.
Doing very well. Yeah.
And then here he put essentially the totals, right? Which at the time was $25 times 1,400 square feet. That was $35,000 per year. And then you would divide that by 12.
Correct.
And then you would get your
monthly payments.
Your monthly payments, right? Yeah. There was a rent-free period of 2 months. And then number 4 was the landlord's work.
2 months is probably for the tenant to go in and do their leasehold improvements without having to pay rent.
Very good. And then there was a landlord's work, Schedule C, conditions. The following are conditions to this offer to lease. And then it was subject of final site plan design and the applicable municipal signage bylaw. So that they wanted to make sure that that their sign was going to be within
their sign. Yeah, they have to get an approval from the local municipality. Also, the use has to be approved under the zoning bylaw that will allow that retail commercial use. And you have to get what they call an occupancy permit from the local municipality. That could take 30 to 60 days. I'm told today, with all the COVID problems, et cetera, that now it's taking 3 to 6 months.
Really?
So when you're drafting an agreement to lease on behalf of a prospective tenant, you got to cover yourself and the tenant to make sure they don't get caught having a signed agreement and can't get occupancy.
That it starts, let's say, at the end of the month. And
it can be deep doo-doo.
Right, exactly.
So you really have to act on behalf of your prospective tenant, and the landlord should understand that. It's a typical landlord that has a typical agreement to lease, and then eventually your lease agreement. That the tenant has to go through the process at its expense.
Okay, sounds good. And then let me just finish covering this, which was the term and option, 1 10-year term with 2 5-year options to be negotiated, then current market rents, and then the commencement date, and then they had a clause. And then, you know, it was more into then the actual offer to lease.
Agreement
to lease at that point. But, you know, just to go back to this.
On TREB, if you go into TREB commercial, you can find all the clauses for commercial leasing. And all you have to do is take those clauses, put them into your proposed agreement to lease. That will satisfy your tenant client. Not necessarily the landlord, because in this case, we're acting on behalf of the tenant. In the other case, if you are listing a retail commercial space for rent, then you're acting on behalf of the landlord. The landlord may have a standard lease agreement, but you may have to use the TREB commercial lease, agreement to lease, and get that filled out, with the landlord agreeing to those clauses.
Perfect.
So it's 2 sides, the tenant side and the landlord side.
Correct. So Ali here gave me a listing, although it's not the most pretty store, pretty looking store, but anyway, for the sake of argument, so we have a listing here at Lakeshore in W06 Mimico in Toronto, and the net lease here is $14.90 per square foot. TMI is for 2021, so that was last year. The TMI was $10. TMI.
That's taxes, maintenance, and insurance.
Very good.
Not utility costs.
Not utility costs.
Correct.
So
these and that's per square foot per annum.
Per square foot per annum. It is a 2,000 square feet commercial retail space located at Lakeshore and Royal York. It's 100% retail space. Zoning, they just put retail. So,
well, the listing agent should have put in the site-specific zoning so that the potential tenant can make sure that they qualify for that use in that building.
Correct. Yep. Sprinklers partial.
Yeah.
Sorry, partial.
Yeah.
Heat is baseboard.
Yes.
I'm sure over here.
That's standard in older stuff down there.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would be very costly.
It's very costly. Correct.
Right. To keep it warm
to the tenant.
Right. Water, municipal, AC, yes. Utilities, A. Anyway. Okay. Garage type, plaza.
Yeah.
Yada yada. So
to spell out parking, if there's parking available in the listing, because sometimes in retail commercial, similar along Dundas, like our old building at 5110 Dundas Street West, we had parking in the front. Yeah. We also had parking in the back. And one of the problems is if you're a retail commercial tenant, there should be parking provided usually in the back of the building for the tenant. And then people that are coming to that retail commercial shop would have parking in the front.
So they only said is plaza, which means probably not plaza. So yeah. Right. So and of course by now, I mean, we're gonna start putting an offer together. We should have done our due diligence and making sure that that we double and triple check that the use will be permitted.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then in the extra it says $70,000 square feet.
$17 per square foot net.
Yeah.
Net. Okay.
Plus 10 of TMI.
TMI. Yeah.
Lease to include demolition clause. 2-year term available.
Now, do you know what demolition clause basically says? That the landlord has the right
to demolish it, to sell it,
eventually demolish the property for potential redevelopment after the 2-year term expires from the tenant.
Okay. So
if I was an agent working with a client that was looking at this space, I would be very hesitant about leasing the space because you can only occupy it for possibly 2 years.
Okay. Yeah. So maybe not best case scenario.
Probably not. Yes.
All right. So let's pretend that we're going to go now into web forms and essentially start drafting.
Anything else in the extras there, etc.? Was that
on the extras?
Sometimes they asterisk stuff and put little things in there that you don't know about.
No.
Does it say you can get an email information package from the listing agent? Because if I was acting on behalf of a potential retail commercial client, all right, I would ask the listing agent to email an information package on this specific space in the building.
Right. So there's none other than all showings to Broker Bay or call the office. Right. And then there was an email provided. So not much. Well,
you gotta verify the taxes and you gotta verify the TMI.
Right.
It may not be correct on the listing. I assume it is if it's a good agent, good commercial agent, but this is backup information that you need when you're representing a tenant.
Yeah, great to know. So in this particular case, we would start a commercial lease
and agreement to lease.
Yeah, so I'm just typing in here what type of property we're doing here, and then create it. Okay. So it is loading here. So we go through our first page of the details. Okay, I'm gonna say yes, go to the next page. Let's say that we're gonna offer today. So that would be November 7th. And revocability, how much would you say?
48 hours.
48 hours?
Sure.
All right, so we're gonna say Wednesday. And then possession date, you said, which probably,
well, I think it said 30 to 60 days. It was vacant, right? So yeah, so depends what your retail client, when they want to occupy the property.
So let's say January 9th, and go to the next page. I'm going to be the cooperating salesperson here. We're on LePage West Realty Group. And then let's say I'm going to add a fake
or whoever the listing agent was.
Yeah, so let's just I'm gonna add somebody.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna see a good friend of mine. I'm gonna put him here. All right. And he's gonna be the buyer. Sure, why not? All right. So we have, then we go to our forms, and let's say he has been already signed a representation and working with a commercial realtor.
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah,
we're gonna, would you say then we're gonna go to the short
agreement to lease, not the lease agreement. This is just the agreement to lease or offer to lease. Probably the landlord may have a standard lease agreement,
right,
that will be signed after everything is agreed to in the agreement to lease by the landlord and the tenant.
Very good. So we have form 511, agreement to lease commercial short form.
That's the one.
That's the one.
Yep.
There's also an Ontario form, but we're going to use the Toronto form.
Yeah.
Should be the same detail. Is there anything else you would add? And schedule? They should have a schedule, maybe not. They don't have anything. Would you add anything?
Well, if your schedule could be the floor plans,
yep,
and outlined in red,
yep,
showing the exact size of the potential property to be leased.
Okay, we didn't even look at the commission. What is the commission of this thing? Half month's rent. That's
okay. That's low, but okay.
All right.
Should be at least a month, or it's 4% of the first year rent, 2% of the second, 2% of the third. That's sort of standard in the industry today.
Great listing. So, and then of course we would do our agreement to lease and what our confirmation of cooperation, right? So we
yes, sir.
Get paid.
Yep. Yep. Very similar to what you would do in the sale of a single family residential home.
Yeah.
The clauses, the forms are basically the same except for the commercial realtor form.
And it's the same form, that residential confirmation of cooperation. Same thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right. Is there anything else that you can think of that we need to add?
Well, I don't know. Are we going to go clause by clause through the full agreement lease, or do you just want to, because you've already given the copy out to the typical agents in our office here? If they follow that, that's all they really have to do is they understand how to complete the agreement to lease. Okay. If not, once they've seen this video and they've reviewed it, as I said, Julio, I'd be pleased to come in any day, sit down in the boardroom with any of the agents. If I can help them out through the process, I'd love to. Okay,
very good. So, but yeah, I think we're gonna maybe just try to replicate with the forms that are available.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, so we have our agreement to lease, and then here we put the 7th day of November. The landlord is in here, premises. Would you have the square footage there? I think it was 2,000, no?
Yeah, 2,000.
2,000 square feet. 2,000 square feet, more or less on the, this is on the ground floor, I'm assuming, so we just put ground floor, right?
Correct. Our main floor.
Main floor. Yeah. Of the building known as 2491 Lakeshore Boulevard in the city of Toronto. Use. Let's say that we have verified the use, so
whatever the use is. Yeah.
Can we just put retail?
Yep.
Term of lease.
2 years is max because that's what's in the listing agreement.
Commencing on that, so let's say we're going to start January 9th.
Yep.
January 9th, and terminating on, let's say, January 8th.
Yep.
Of
let's look
2025. Sounds good.
Yep.
Rental off.
Yep.
What was it?
X dollars per square foot, whatever it is.
So they listed $14.90.
Yeah. So you say you want to win at $14 a square foot. Look for sign back. Or 13, I don't know.
So question here, they listed at 14.90,
Yep.
but down below, extra 17.
Because it drops the price. If you look at the original.
Oh,
17.
okay, gotcha. So he didn't update the extras. So originally it was 17, but now it's 14.90.
Yeah, you may want to offer 13.
All right, well, you're a tough negotiator. Let's go.
I got a tough client.
At a rental of 13 per annum. So would you then
Per square foot per annum, yes.
Okay. Payable, and then
First and last month's rent in advance.
Yep.
So you have to figure it out. So you got to multiply the 13 times the square footage times 2.
Okay.
Do you understand that?
Sorry.
Okay.
Wasn't
$13 a square foot.
Yeah.
Times the square footage.
Yep. So I guess my number is here is incorrectly. So $13. So at a rental of $13 per annum payable.
Not per annum, per square foot per annum. Okay.
Yeah, but I cannot put square foot per annum.
Oh.
So
sorry.
payable, I get monthly. So you have a calculator?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got to do first. Okay, you got to do 13 times the square footage.
Yeah.
Divide by 12.
2,166.
2,166.
Thank you, sir.
Right.
Okay, next.
And payable on the 9th day of each month.
Yep.
Plus HST deposit. Yep. And then just like a regular residential here.
No, we do first and last month's rent as the deposit. So multiply that first month's rent times 2.
4,000.
4,000. Solid.
And then negotiable to the brokerage. I don't even know what that is, but let's say it was another, I don't know, Royal LePage, another Royal LePage. All right, and then the deposit will be herewith or upon acceptance.
Yeah, upon acceptance. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Against the first and last.
Right. Yeah, that's an excellent form, really. What they designed.
Additional terms.
Well, that you have to spell out with the client that is interested in the space. So we don't know what the additional terms are. Okay.
All right.
So just leave it blank for now.
Schedule. So we are schedule, and then they probably have a schedule as well, right?
Yes, sir.
So let's say A and B.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe a copy of the floor plan with the exact dimensions, etc. If there was a basement, okay. If there's a rear door with parking to the rear, etc., 2 cars for the tenant, you could put all that into the Schedule A, etc. Okay.
Okay. Right. Your vocabulary is going to be by the tenant.
Right.
Until let's say 6 p.m. on the
48 hours from the date of signature.
November. And then the email of the landlord's agent here.
That is correct. Yes.
And then we just go for the signatures.
Correct signatures. Yes. Yeah.
Right. Commission trust. We sign our name.
Yep.
And that's that.
That's standard, simple agreement to lease prep form.
Perfect.
It's easiest to use. Now, there are more complicated forms when you get into multi-retail shopping centers. Okay. But this is a standalone retail commercial space. So the agreement to lease TREB form is satisfactory to use on behalf of your client.
Okay.
Don't we use this form also for like industrial warehouse? No.
Yes and no. It all depends. That's another situation. If it's a freestand industrial building, that's one thing. If it is in an industrial plaza or mall or building, then it could be totally different.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So we would have to add then a Schedule A. We want to put a clauses.
Yes, if there were certain requirements that the proposed tenant wanted within the premises, okay, you would put that in there. let's say there was no washroom.
Yeah.
In the 2,000 square feet, okay? You put that in, the landlord will build a washroom satisfactory to the tenant, or the tenant can build the washroom at his expense to be approved by the landlord. There may be other work to be done within the existing retail commercial space that the tenant would like to have the landlord complete before possession.
Okay.
So it's something you can just, type it out in the Schedule A attached there too, and make it part of the agreement to lease.
Agreement options of to lease commercial Schedule A. Okay, agreement to lease commercial. Okay, so just added a schedule. And then we'll call this a Schedule A, right?
Yep.
So getting to the meat and potatoes of the clauses. So let's just talk about, you spoke about a sign or a...
Signage would be at the expense of the tenant with approval by the landlord.
Okay.
So the tenant shall have the right to erect a sign above the retail commercial premises or whatever you want to call it that, subject to the approval of the landlord.
Yeah, signs. Okay.
There you go.
Okay, so we were looking at lease commercial. Okay, so let's just add it. All right. So again, let's go back to our system clauses. Lease commercial. Okay, lease commercial. Here we go. Okay, so we have lease one, condition of approval from board of directors.
Nope.
Condition financial covenant of tenant.
Now, the landlord may want to find out how strong financially the tenant is.
Okay.
But since we're drafting this on behalf of the tenant, we wouldn't put that clause in.
Okay.
But the agent acting on behalf of the landlord, who has the property listed, the landlord may come back and put that clause in.
Okay. All right. Condition lawyers approval landlord. Pretty similar.
Standard, yes, or tenant as well. Yeah.
Okay. Same for tenant.
Yeah.
Condition occupancy permit.
Yes.
You will put that one in. Okay.
Most definitely on behalf of the tenant. Yes.
Okay.
At the tenant's expense.
At the tenant's expense.
Yeah.
Condition zoning satisfaction.
Also put in for the tenant. Correct.
All right. Lease commercial, well, agreement to sign lease prior to the tenant taking possession of the demised premises.
Standard clause on behalf of the landlord.
The party shall execute the lease. Okay. So I would add that.
Yep.
Alterations and improvement.
Now that's depending what the tenant wants to change within the premises. You can put those changes in that with that clause.
Okay.
The landlord may not accept it. It would probably be at the tenant's expense, but in some cases, the landlord would in turn allow the, we okay there?
Yeah, I think so.
The landlord may, if it's a AAA tenant, for example, and he wants his covenant, the landlord may pay for those alterations or changes.
Okay. Sounds good. Number 10, arbitration.
No.
No. Okay.
But that may be in the final lease agreement.
Okay. Area defined.
Yes, that spells out the exact location and size of the property to be leased.
Okay. Area measurement.
May have that, may not. If there is a survey that shows the floor plan, et cetera, it would be attached to Schedule A. It would be actually Schedule B.
All right. Assign or sublease.
Could be if allowed by the landlord.
Okay. But in 2 years, most likely.
Yeah.
It wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Assignment approval by the landlord. So same thing. So
the
landlord, the tenant shall have the right to assign its interest under the lease to a limited company. Okay. Assignment without approval.
No, probably
in this
not.
case.
No.
Chemicals compliance with regulations.
You can throw that in there. Yes, nothing wrong with it.
Compliance with bylaws and codes.
Yes.
Okay. Confidentiality.
Yes.
Contractors to be used.
That's where we get to the point where the tenant wants to make improvements. The landlord may want to see who his contractor is and approve him prior to signing the agreement to lease.
All right. Demolition clause is already there. Well, but yes, they can add it, right? I wouldn't add it.
It would be in the landlord would sign the agreement to lease back to the tenant with that clause in there.
So might as well add it because we know it's coming.
Correct.
All right. Early occupancy.
Negotiable.
Okay. Early occupancy, net rent free. So
yes.
We know there's 2 months, right?
Yes.
Okay. Electrical and mechanical equipment in good working order.
Good clause to put in for the tenant.
Okay. Entire agreement.
Yes.
Okay. It is understood and agreed that the contract resulting from the acceptance of this offer shall be a blah blah blah. Okay, so we'll have to look into that. Escalation clause.
No, not in this case because it's only 2 years.
Okay.
Now, if it was a 5 or a 10-year lease, the landlord may say after 5 years, we're going to increase your rent by $2 per square foot per annum.
Okay. First right of refusal on vacant space. Lease.
No.
Okay. First right of refusal to purchase.
No.
Gross lease. No.
No.
Gross lease with escalations. No. HSD.
Yes.
Okay. Guarantor.
Could be, may not be.
All right, let's leave that optional, I guess. Tenant to obtain insurance.
Yes.
Lease cancellation privilege.
Probably not in this case because it's only 2 years.
Lease form attached here to a schedule is a copy of the landlord's standard lease.
Yes, if the landlord has a standard lease agreement, not the agreement to lease.
Okay.
The listing agent, when the landlord signs the agreement to lease, may give to the other agent a copy of the landlord's standard lease agreement.
All right, great. Net lease.
Yes, this is a net lease.
Okay. And the previous one as well. Option to purchase.
No.
Okay. Option to renew appraisal.
No. No.
Option to renew arbitration. No.
No.
Parking.
We don't know that, but we could spell it out if there are parking spaces available in the agreement to lease. Yes. And they would be assigned to the new tenant.
To the new tenant. And we're not talking about public parking. We're talking about the spots in either the back or something.
Correct.
Partitions.
Yes, if there's a design where the tenant is going to redesign the vacant open space, he would have to supply copies of the architectural drawings to the landlord to get his approval. So there could be partitions.
Okay. This space is relatively small. It's a small 2,000 square feet. Probably.
May not be. Yeah.
Partitions with approval, proportionate share. That will be more for like a large commercial.
Yes.
Or something.
Yeah. Correct.
Rent-free period. We know there's
already covered that. Correct.
Rent amount shall be per annum paid. Would you use this rental amount? Let's see what
clause sounds okay.
The rent paid by the tenant to the landlord shall be per annum paid 1/12 monthly in advance. Okay, so
correct. That's put that clause in. Yes. Okay.
Restoring premises to original condition.
Yeah, no, that's probably the landlord. If their new partitions are going in or changes within the demise premises, the landlord may insist that prior to the tenant vacating the premises, he has to take those partitions down at his expense.
Okay. Shipping and receiving access.
Only if there is shipping receiving at the rear of the retail space.
Signs, this is the one we're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
If there's plans, floor plan attached.
Space layout sketch, that's the one you're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Structural penetration.
Not necessary.
Use of common areas.
No common areas.
Okay. Work by landlord.
Could, yeah, depending.
Okay. And workman-like manner.
Yes, if there's work to be done within the four walls of the retail space, it must be done in a good workman-like manner. And that's a good clause to put in that will satisfy both the tenant and the landlord.
All right, perfect. So we just add 22 clauses. Oh my God.
There you go. So now you've completed a typical agreement to lease for a tenant.
All right, so we have about 3 or 4 pages down here.
Yes. Plus the attachments if you've got a floor plan or whatever.
All right.
And the schedules, Schedule A and Schedule B or Schedule 1, 2, whatever.
Okay. So perfect. I think this is probably enough, no?
Yes, it's a good start.
You don't want to go over these clauses again, but we just kind of said what will be.
These are standard, pretty well standard retail commercial clauses for a prospective tenant.
Any questions, Ali?
No,
here?
actually, like,
Yeah.
Very clear, like, because I've been doing a lot of lease for commercial, sorry, for residential.
Yeah.
So the cost here is totally different, but still like, there is a little bit of similarity, and somehow of the forms, when you know the form, when you know how to go to the clause,
Yes.
you can pick up whatever you want, so you don't.
Depends who you're representing.
Exactly,
If you're representing the tenant,
yeah,
you support the tenant, their clauses. If you're working on behalf and have a listing signed for the retail space to be leased by the landlord, then you're working on the landlord's side, so you want to protect the landlord.
exactly.
Okay. Well, this is really great. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. As I said to you, if any of the agents, once they've seen this, want to sit down anytime and talk about retail, commercial space, or industrial, or investment properties, whatever, we can do other seminars. I'd be most pleased.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Have a good one, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.